Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, I have the absolute pleasure to be speaking with one of our artists, Anastasia, and she is exhibiting a few of her works in our upcoming photography exhibition. It's entitled Refracted, Shade and Light. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about her artistic process, how she got here, and the stuff that she is exhibiting. So thank you so much, Anastasia, for coming today and speaking with me. We're really excited to talk. We're going to just kick it off by asking you about, could you please give a brief description about the work that you are showcasing at the exhibition?
Yeah, so basically you'll see on display that three of my works kind of come in a set, which includes Breaking Free, Dance of Life, and Breathe In. And they were sort of taken at a time where I felt pretty hopeless and stuck in my life. And I'm not quite fully out of that yet, but things are definitely starting to look up a lot more. And you'll see that I'm working with fabric to kind of block myself from the lens. And I really love using barriers between the lens and the subject often, whether it's plastic or glass or, as you'll see, fabric, because it creates some kind of distance and adds more texture to my photos. And they kind of reveal the tension that I feel in my body of sort of being caught up in my past, but also wanting to move on from it. And it kind of creates the idea of some hope seeping in through the fabric in the photos in the form of light that I have going on in the background. And then my other one, Duplexity, is kind of in a similar theme, but it more so covers sort of a human made up of all of their parts. And it's also that tension and fighting to find a balance between your dark and light. And then lastly, the flower one, A Flower for You. Like the rest of my body of work in this exhibition and more, it kind of represents my exploration in the body and finding ways to capture it in new, unexpected ways, basically.
Very cool. Thank you. It's a great description. Just jumping off of that, I am curious how you arrived at photography as your medium. Have you experienced or explored and experienced other mediums on top of photography, or just how did you arrive at that being your preferred medium?
Yeah, so I'm very grateful for my path of getting to photography becoming my greatest passion, because it kind of started off as it often does for a lot of people who first explore better technology. So for me, it was just my first smartphone in eighth grade, and I realized that the camera was better quality. So that started kind of developing into a hobby. And I later just chased after every opportunity to make this better, whether it's through doing one personal project after another, or um, being the photography editor of my high school's magazine, or doing more classes. And now at Rutgers, I get to experience so many more classes and learning from my peers and faculty members as well. So it's definitely been a long road and a very exciting one. And I definitely see myself exploring other mediums as well, because I already have been doing that since art has been an even longer hobby for me than photography ever since my early days as a child. And I use that to explore my creativity in different ways, whether it's through drawing or painting. And then now, as a design major at Rutgers, that's kind of my middle ground between all of these interests, and finding ways to connect them in a way that complements each of my passions. Um, and yeah, for the future, I always see myself stepping into new spaces as well, because I always want to find ways to explore my creativity. So right now it's more about dance and singing as my newer ways of kind of implementing that into my practice as well.
Yeah, awesome. It sounds very interdisciplinary, your process. It's very cool. And that's kind of how I feel like all art is made. You consume certain media, you exert certain media, and it all kind of connects and inspires each other. It's very interesting. Um, I do also want to talk about your artistic process in terms of capturing a photo. I noticed that a lot of the subjects in your works surround women. I don't know if all of them are self-portraits, but seems like femininity pokes through as some sort of theme. I wonder if that's an intentional choice, if that's an exploration that you've intentionally sought out.
Yeah, with my practice, usually I kind of get these ideas that I just have this impulse to bring to life. And after that, I finally kind of look at the photos that I've made and I start seeing meaning and messages that I was kind of subconsciously going for without really realizing. Um, and oftentimes a lot of that has to do with femininity as well, which has been a greater focus for me more recently, both because I'm a woman myself and because most of the close people around me are women as well. And this is kind of a nice way for me to explore this topic and what it means for myself within the context of sort of my perceived world, and kind of addressing parts of myself that I want to celebrate, but also parts of myself that I have tension with, accepting or embracing. So this has been a sort of a therapeutic way for me to look within and see what kind of life I'm building for myself. And I also really love self-portraiture because it kind of lets me be in full control of the process, where with people outside of myself, it might be more difficult to um, create a space that's comfortable for both people. But for me, being in sole control, I know that every decision I make is in my power. So it's more freeing in that way, but I really enjoy both because it just lets you capture people's unique experiences in that way. And the topic of the transition from girlhood to womanhood has been my recent focus because I'm making my thesis project in that right now. So a lot of that work is heavily leaning into that right now.
Beautiful. I'm really interested in that thesis. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Um, and another, you mentioned A Flower for You, one of the photographs that's in the exhibition. I was really drawn to this piece because it reminded me of, I study art history, and surrealism is a big part of the photography history, the history of photography. And it looks a lot like a Man Ray surrealist photograph, or it's I think it stands out from your other ones, and it's so beautiful and thought-provoking. And I was just wondering if you have any inspirations from, or you draw inspiration from other photographers, other artists, other mediums. Yeah.
Um, Being an art and photography student, this is something that I kind of, every time I have these conversations with my peers, I kind of realize that it's much harder for me to pinpoint my specific influences than it is for some other people. Like, I know that my work is influenced by a huge compilation of people's works that I can't necessarily put names to, but I know that they're there. So it's just so many different people that I've been exposed to throughout the years. And I definitely do really enjoy surrealist photography because for me, I like the sense of creating an image that makes you question what you're looking at or why it's even important to be looking at. And I like to play with people's perceptions in that way, and it's not necessarily um altered through Photoshop, but for me, I really enjoy the process of in the middle of taking the photos to try to create those things. And you mentioned Man Ray, and he's more of like a recent influence for me that I've been looking into, but I just generally really enjoy conceptual photography that
Mm.
makes you think more. And I also like editorial photography, which kind of brings fashion into it. So some of my influences that I can easily think about are maybe people like Ralph Gibson or Cass Bird, and Cindy Sherman, as many people also enjoy. She was doing self portraiture as well, and that's what I'm exploring, and this kind of a um, performative, staged um, flair that she brings into her work that I'm also trying. And I'm also more interested in body photography, nude photography, and sort of exploring sensuality in my work as well. So people like Ren Hang also come to mind. But yeah, it's a lot of different people.
It's awesome. That's really great. Cindy Sherman is one of my favorite artists of all time. I think she's so cool, and what she's doing is, I think, really revolutionary. And I think even in combination with you talking about your thesis of from girlhood to womanhood, thinking of Cindy Sherman, that's just really interesting. So I really love that input. Um, Anyway, those are all the questions I have. Thank you so much for participating in this interview. I had a lovely time speaking with you, and I can't wait for the exhibition to go up so that everyone can see your work.
I had a lovely time as well. Thank you for interviewing me and for this time talking.
With the assistance of grants from organizations such as Amboy Bank, Magyar Bank, Johnson & Johnson, New Brunswick City Center, Middlesex County Cultural and Heritage Commission, Merck & Co., and the Bank of Princeton, Alpha Art is confident that all who come will leave with a greater appreciation of the arts and the gallery showcasing of a variety of artists.